Hello and welcome to another Jungle Coaching, and in this one we have a gold Trundle versus a tree who's called IVERN in the game League of Legends, does some funky shit, and likes to shield the win con and then disrupt you with Daisy. I'm telling you this because most of you have probably never faced one. Now basically, obviously that means because they're gonna, he has to prime his camps, he doesn't eat them, he has to like activate it, go to the next one, use his resources, go to the next one, and then he has to come back to it once it's fully charged, like this. Alright, you can see this right here. His clears can be quite unique, but also weird in a meta where you want level 3 and you're trying to play full clearing level 4. He doesn't have these things, right? His design is old school. So effectively, when he can smite something that he's charged up, the smite gives him the camp immediately, right? No time whatsoever. He's gonna use it on his red. Might see him try some sort of weird stuff where he always tries to counter-invade and steal your blue. So the Trundle snap in the ward here is basically saying, look, I know you're going to eat this, prime this, you're going to run across, you're going to queue over the wall here, you're going to do that, smite it, and run away. Haha, you're so amazing. And what you do is you ward this so you can see that, and then you can kind of flex vertical if you wanted to. Warwick mains, however, I advise going this into that, because if he does do this, you actually counter him, because you can chunk him, and with your W, you can chase him. So the Trundle in the meantime says, look, I'm going to go red Krugs into the Raptors here, leveraging new pet control, and the IVERN can also do things where he starts somewhere else, you have no idea, because you don't have any deep vision, and he'll just prime a camp, smite a camp, go level 2, clear, and then try to move on down here. At this stage, obviously, when you look at his perspective, the problem is he doesn't have smite for another 28 seconds. So the Trundle is in no real concern here. You cannot counter jungle as IVERN unless you have that smite, or you can prime it, go do something else, and then come back. Obviously, that speeds up. The Olaf versus Aatrox top lane. The Olaf is quite strong. Hyelo is complaining about it quite vociferously lately. And the IVERN here is not going to be going to do any sorts of cheese. The Trundle says, look, I've done my red quadrant here. I'm not going to go counter jungling. I'm going to do a little bit of a J-cut. How nice. Now, the J-cut is, just for context, where you kind of do this little thing. Looks like a bit of an upside down J. I mean, right? You do a camp, and instead of going the same side around to the lane, you go the other side because you are worried about potential vision, or you're worried about angle of approach and things like that. And if you've seen the Yasuo kind of move on down and slap a ward here, say he just dips from the lane and just wards over the wall, then you're like, that's sticky wicket, because now you kind of want to go here, but if it's warded here, then you're seen. Instead of going through here, because I know you will see me, I'll just go around the top side and have a better approach, a better angle of approach for my gank. Now the problem is the pillar is not seen in replays sometimes. He did use it, he gets the slow Yasuo and knows one direction and one direction only, which is of course in, and he gets the stun, get the flash, we flash there, we cancel order actually, and we have a savior from the You kind of make this up. That's this champion. That's what IVERN does. Now obviously, in retrospect, it's best not to make sure you cancel any abilities, because that obviously, right, gets you the kill. But the IVERN here is doing his essentially Raptors red smite, level 2 gank, can't invade this whatsoever, because most Trundles will look to kind of not do the Krugs and Raptors. So to kind of put it in simple words, he does this, primes it, does this, smites it, does this, goes for his level 2 gank. By the time that's all done, he can go and eat these camps and float to the bottom side. He sees this, he's like, most junglers will be thinking 80% rule. Can I rotate? Can I get something? That's not your job as IVERN. You're like the Janna of the jungle. Your job is just to save lives and shield things. It's not about what you get. So, you see the Yasuo about to die, and therefore we will flash to make sure we hit that E, which is of course the shield. And the Trundle's like, well, I'm unhappy. Now you can go to this side, of course. We'll have our smite charge up. Most of the time you would use that for your scuttle crab fights and things like that, but it's not really an issue at this particular stage. The Trundle now knows he can officially afford to fall back to this side. However, he could have and maybe should have looked to go top lane instead, because this is something, and this is something we want to snowball, right? The downside is obviously this is an absolutely massive giganto wave, and you kind of want the Olaf to thin it out just a little bit, and you can be honest with yourself, were you paying attention to whether he dipped down to ward or not? I have no idea. So you might be in the situation where you're just running at an Aatrox, right? So basically he decides to fulfill the time doing the blue, right? Obviously get his passive going, get some more healing in general, but then he doesn't look up. So that says to me he wasn't thinking about this, because as soon as you're doing this and you see the Olaf just straight up go in, you're like, oh man, I actually could have just gone in the first place, because Olaf doesn't care about the mini wave. And to a degree, pros and cons, depends on the MMR you're in, but I do like the idea of her saying, hey, look, that's a fat wave. Let me wait for it to be thinned out. I'll do a camp and then I'll rotate. But as soon as you see them going straight up fisting, you should be running over right now. You should be running over to this to ensure you can get something going. And look at this. The Aatrox is going back in. He's going back in here. Like, we're doing the Scuttle Crab. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Now, you see what I'm saying? So whether or not you kind of wanted to go ahead and gank into the wave and just run it down and see what you could do, or whether you took a more measured approach of, hey, let me do a camp and then rotate for the gank once it's thinned out, the fact of the matter is we missed an absolute free gank there on the Aatrox for cleanup. We've run across the mid lane into a scenario where IVERN and the bottom lane, we'll look at it in a second, are fighting, and we're trailing this, and now you're looking at your Vayne getting fed, and your Lulu getting fed, and the stun on the Yasuo there, that's great. He gets a knockup, doesn't really matter. He dashes and dashes. The Ignite tick will kill him. This looks not so bad for our team. But from the IVERN's perspective, let's have a look to see what we were actually doing here. The guy has just decided, look, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to start to do the Scuttle Crab. The bottom lane are like, well, we have Perma Prior, we might as well rotate up and try and take it, which is a very Korean thing to do. The Yasuo is not going deep on the Annie, so he's created this Prior, and the IVERN, because he uses Flash E, has nothing, so Vayne can just chase down, chase down, chase down. Yeah, he can use the bushes for a bit of cover, but there's only so much he can do because Vayne. So he basically puts himself in a precarious situation going for that Scuttle Crab last, but honestly, you can't predict the bottom lane doing that. TRUNDLE, in the meantime, shouldn't even be here. Now, you're saying like, well, you know, he could have helped his team. Yeah, but he could have just rotated to this and killed the Aatrox and won this lane for Olaf, and that's great, you know? How nice, how juicy. And then you can fall back down to this, reset, Tiamat, go bottom lane, and do some stuff and snowball the Vayne a bit more. So we died. Compromised our entire game plan. He went for the Sheen, of course. Balanced. I mean, he's also a Sheen Tiamat gamer, right? That's the Trundles, the Volibears, the Warwicks. These two items together fuse us with happiness because they're so potent in the PvP sense. On the hit plus AD plus AoE, whoa, juicy. So now effectively he's gone out of base with the Sheen to the Wolf camp. Question to yourselves, where are you sequencing, my friends? Are you going up like this or are you going down like this? Where are you going, and why? Because if you're going down, okay, then why are we doing the wolves first? You're gonna have spaghetti pot thing. Also, it's worth noting that at this point, the Aatrox gone back to base. Dude's not gankable, right? So in theory, if you wanted to kind of gank top sequence down, that's nice, but we missed our opportunity to do that. Now we're just going up here into this. Are you really gonna go gank this Aatrox now? I mean, top laners will say sure, but in my mind, I'm like, well, we're Trundle. We're not exactly 1v9. Sorry, I hovered it, but then it didn't stick. You can see there the description. You steal AD, it's not steal. You gain, they lose, right? But you also slow. So against your Yasuos and Aatroxes, this is kind of useful. Let's go down and snowball this lane really, really hard. Let's shut down the Ezreal Yuumi. Let's repeat gank this lane where we already burned sums, okay? What he's fascinated about is going into the Wolves, into the Grump, into the counter jungle, which is okay given you should kind of know that IVERN was here, but you have no idea about his camp timers, you see. The thing about the IVERN that makes it really, really weird and interesting is that, yeah, he primes this, smites this, primes this, goes and does this, then he goes back to here. Cool. But you don't know exactly when he's going to finish all of these camps. So his first clear timers become a little bit more difficult to track. So it's better just in this elo, focus on yourself, focus on the lane you want to snowball. So he goes like this, okay? Recognizes, oh, yes, just pushing up. So I'll give him credit for that cut there. But we have the IVERN once more shadowing the scenario. He's activated his W, the frozen domain. The pillar does go through. We see the house there. We have the Q slow. And of course, now we've been ignited. Can we survive? We can, of course. His passive gives him some healing when units die around him. As you can see, enemies die around him, as you can see there. This gives you that movement speed plus attack speed boost. And a lot more healing, which means lifesteal inherently, right? Like lifesteal's always been good if you want to play that kind of game. And obviously, this is the knockback slow. So while I don't think this was intended, because it looks like he was just kind of like, I guess I'll counter jungle. At least you recognize the scenario versus the earlier thing. Now the Olaf's in a bit of a bind here. He's like, well, this just does not feel good at all. And of course, the Trundle is now level 4. And Winnie Young tried to save the day there, but wasn't able to. Let's see what transpires next. But basically, this to me strikes me as a lane I would want to get ahead, because the Vayne did a good job rotating, cutting, and getting, kill and assist earlier. It's the thing I kind of wanted to snowball just so Ezreal doesn't get out of control, because with the Yuumi, with the IVERN, with the Ezreal mobility and the champion that it is, I don't want that late game. I really don't. You're not going to be able to kill him. It's going to be so difficult without some sort of assassin pressure. And of course, we run at them. We run at them. IVERN's now loop ganking here. The Yasuo's going in. We get the Annie stun. IVERN throws a Q, misses it. So Annie again saves herself a little bit of life. And he spends 18 years on this Krug camp going into the red camp. He's looking at this. Not at all. Like, he's not looking at the lanes while he's farming, right? Look at this. He's looking at this. It's like, But he's not looking at these scenarios. And he's not moving quickly enough. And it's the biggest thing we talk about in the gold jungle course, but in the platinum jungle course that I mentioned is now available. It's this fusion of concepts, right? You want to deny the enemy jungler. But the idea of this 80% rule to rotate to scenarios, but just to play with eyes up the whole time. The plat course, we go so in depth into this concept of eyes up and flow. Just right, what's the next best play in the map? And it's very rarely, hey, Krugs and red. And then you don't finish the Raptors. Like, if that's your decision to not rotate to these doomed scenarios, then commit yourself to that, infuse yourself, and don't start wandering around looking for stuff. Because we ran at a level 6 Yasuo, who we cannot gap close on because we have Flash, we don't have Ghost. Flash is obviously, Flash versus Ghost is the decision, right? Do you want the Ghost to stick to people, get the resets? Or do you want the Flash for the chomp, for the pillars, and the outplays? So now basically, again, because timers are a little bit off, going randomly venturing for things, not level 6, look at this. We're just sitting in a bush. What's the plan? Is the plan to dive? You want to dive this? You know, this is not a diveable lane just yet. You're standing still. And if you're jungling and you're standing still the whole time, you're just wasting time. And I know maybe he's just thinking about the blue buff. Maybe I'm overthinking it. He's just thinking, I want to steal the blue buff. Which again, noble. But is it worth this level of time invest? I think we can all categorically say no, it is not. So if you're the kind of jungler, right, again, he doesn't rotate to things. He's not playing eyes up. He's focusing head down on his own stuff. He's not level 6 yet by 9 minutes. He is the same CS, the same XP as an IVERN. And yeah, he has a kill and he has assist, but he also has a death like the IVERN does. Now the Annie stuns the Yasuo, who does the Q, who gets pillared, who is slowed a little bit. Now he runs away. We know that IVERN's going up, so he's probably going to this quadrant here. He's not going to be soloing this unless he's level 6 with his Daisy thing. He's obviously taken this sucker, so there's no point going over to this area. This guy is now just gonna brutally assault the Olaf, which is why it was so important for us to rotate to that and try with the idea of saving the Olaf. And now look at this here. We're just gonna go ahead and do this. Yeah, look at this. You got this, buddy. Yeah, go team. Go team! Why do I sound like Bane when I do that? But it's kind of like Bane from the Harley Quinn show, right? Like it's a caricature of what a jungler should be. No offense, but that's kind of like what it feels like sometimes. Because, so you look at this, you're like, see, you didn't need my help. I could do my blue. 80% rule, you said, didn't you? 80%, I don't get anything. It's a number. It's a guideline. It's not a way of life. It's not a scientific exact measurement. There's no ways you could know. It's just a concept of saying, am I more likely to get something than not? Otherwise, I'm going to fuse myself with gold. But when you're playing an IVERN and a low econ jungler and a Trundle and that rule goes down. It's like 50-50. Cool. Can I save my laner? That's all I'm good for, really. And when you're playing these kind of champions, you got to find some sort of win condition, which is why it's not the best champion to play in the CLO. But Trundles can power farm, but he isn't doing that. So W nerfs means he's not going W max, he's going Q max. But he's not fisting enough to justify it. He rushed the Sheen to go fisting, and yet doesn't want to go fist. Go Tiamat then. Max W, put a couple points in W, and just farm. And play like a farming jungler in sequence and come out 3 levels ahead of everybody and then just run them down. You can do that if you wanted to in Trundle, but this sort of like, are you supportive? Are you a ganker? Or you're a farmer? Because you're infusing all 3 styles, you haven't picked an identity. And in the jungle courses, I'm always talking about, like, pick an identity, and then let's maximize the hell out of that with whatever champion you're playing. And I talk about it in this channel too. Because as soon as you try and be everything, you'll be nothing. As it were. Again, we're running at a Yasuo. Annie has no flash. She has ult up, obviously. No stun, though, which means we're not going to get that benefit. We do hit the pillar, which is great. He is now forced to flash. Annie now does have stun. And, of course, we will disengage. So, hey, we burn the flash there. That's fine. IVERN shows himself up here, which means this is going to be available. RNG Scuttle as well. Now we fall back down to this. IVERN can easily shadow this, or loop back around for this, dive this, or do this with Daisy, and then dive this. He's got a lot of options because we know the Trundle's going down. Look at this. Bane is now 2-on-1. 2-on-1, and the As well as a 2-1-1. And he's up 9 CS. Well, 11 CS, excuse me. My eyes confused that. Let's see what he does. Yes, what do you do, Trundle? Scan. Back to where you went. So we did the Raptors, okay. Could have just scanned and repeat ganked anyway. You know, like we could have invested up front here. Vayne is now gone back to base. Lulu is following us over here, okay. Trying to bait this out. Let's go. He does actually fall for it. The pillar, the timbers, the damage, the exhaust, the chomp, the nomp. That's great. Whatever a nomp is, he did it. Little house, you know, pillar thing. It's not really a pillar in the skin, but hey. That's a cool skin, man. I like that. I like that line. I approve of this. Unlike the old skin. Now, he goes down towards this, so we know that it's pinged, and it's like, well, we sacrificed the top Olaf. You know, if you snowball the top Olaf, you just straight up free win. Hey, what did I tell you? Uses Daisy, gets a free Herald. Cool. And he's overstaying here, so she'll get a plate. Hopefully, detaches down. We have the bot lane here doing stuff in the meantime. Lulu rejoins back to the bottom side here, obviously not really having any cash money respent, and tanks a full trade in a cannon wave, and now they start chasing into a full actual wave while they have ults up. And that's why it's very important, snowball lanes, because they're going to do that kind of stuff. And when they do that kind of stuff, don't you want them to have the gold of dreams? Just by extension of your presence. I came to the bot lane just a little bit, I ganked a few times, and accidentally you got golden kills. And now when you do this stupid shit, it works out for you because you just have such a big lead. That's the attitude that you take with laners. That's it. That's the end of the story, because they're always going to do it, so you might as well just give them more stats. That's why the dragons are great. But we just didn't really... I mean, I know we've camped mid lane, I understand that, but you can always camp the mid lane while affecting other lanes as well. There's no reason that says, hey, you can only camp and gank one lane. The top lane rotation was a problem. The lack of sequencing down to this was a problem. I did like the cut. You know, I don't like the power thing inherently, but I like the cut, because you could have gone romp wolves, loop back down, cut through, ganked bottom lane as well, and then gone to this afterwards. So there are ways to transition mid and fuse mid with bottom lane ganks here. Obviously, if you're going to go for this kind of stuff, they see you, they're dead, it doesn't really matter. We didn't see the IVERN, so we don't know, but I don't think he's too concerned about the IVERN. This is actually a logical snack, because now, if you're an Evelynn, Rengar, any sort of other champion, like a human... a champion that doesn't require this level of... a normal meta jungler, you know, they're coming out of base here, and Trundle can basically just cheese. Hey, 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 what's up? I'm gonna gank you again. If you're Evelynn, you're in this bush anyway, right? You're in that bush anyway, and you'll just kill them again. The idea is that if you don't feel comfortable sitting in this bush at 13 minutes as an Evelynn against a Yuumi Ezreal, you have not done enough to get fed. If you're not comfortable enough as a Kayn, as any sort of carry jungler, to sit in this bush at this moment to help your bot lane get maximum plates for yourself as well, and also fall back to the Hextech Dragon, juicy stab money, then you haven't done enough early. And it's usually a lot of the stuff that this Trundle has done, most junglers would do on any champion, right? They just won't think about, they get too tied up in their camps. They get too tied up in their camps. End of story. And the idea is, hey, look, I'm going to do a quadrant gank, but can I gank beforehand? No, I'll do the quadrant, then I'll gank. You know, so this was nice, but he wasn't thinking about, do I do the quadrant then gank? He was thinking, do I do my quadrant and then counter jungle, right? Oh, I noticed I can gank here. And now, of course, we use the behind the back collapse onto the IVERN Yasuo, who then flies. Sorry, I accidentally paused here. And now you're in a bit of a tough spot, I think, as bot lane actually delivers on the double kill. But now, of course, Yasuo and the IVERN are going to rotate down to this scenario saying, juicy Vayne, or they're going to take the dragon. They'll take the dragon. Plays do fall, we don't get maximal. So here again, this would have been nice. I would have liked to have seen pressure here. Boom, 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 boom. Or in the very least, right? Or at the very least, you get that. They can handle this. You can snack this while they fight here, drag it out, smite it, and kite down to your bottom lane, shadow protect. Everyone falls away. You've gotten 4-5 plates. You've gotten the Hextech Dragon. The bot lane have died. You've gotten a piece of that pie as well. Now they've overstayed to kill a turret that they could have killed with you being there, and this has given enough time for your bottom lane to get obsessed with the shiny object of killing this turret, but it's so early in the game still that the bottom lane are going to respawn and rotate back down before they're able to kill the turret and leave. Tempo control. So, if we do the job, and we do it well, we kill, we snack, we defend, we leave. No one dies now. Now, because you don't assist in this and you take yourself out of the equation with a needless death, even though the Vayne is going to waste her flash and die for no particular reason whatsoever, and it's not your fault. Again, that is not your fault. Them doing this dumb stuff is not your fault. Her doing dumb stuff is not your fault. If he loses and does dumb, hey, kill them. Does dumb stuff, it's not their fault. Your fault. It's always theirs. But can I try and prevent them from having those scenarios through my play? That's the idea. That's the idea that we always try to convey. So the Trundle, I feel, lost a lot of control there. We've gone into the Iceborne Gauntlet, so we've really just muted our ability to carry the game. All the best win rates are in the Divine Sundra arena. I would prefer a couple of points in the W if you're going to be more for that farming kind of cadence. I do like the Tiamat because the Tiamat again allows you to farm a quadrant quicker, rotate to a gank. Do the gank, go to the next quadrant, farm it very, very quickly, next gank. Just gives you a lot more potency. And remember, right, as we go top lane here, excuse me, I'm talking about all this nonsense, and he's actually decided, hey, Wolf's blue, I can gank this now. Isn't it weird how he keeps doing like 2 camps out of 3 or 1 camp out of 2 and then ganking? Like, he doesn't finish the quadrant. And this is quite typical for low elo, not so much a gold issue and a platinum issue, but it's definitely a very silver issue where you do 2 camps and you gank. So, well, can you not just finish the quadrant and then do it? Or could you not gank before you do the quadrant? You know, the only time you do kind of like 1 camp or 2 camps is if you're about to level up. Like, I'm level 10. Let me get 11 before I gank here. That's 2 camps, right? So that was okay. But because of the attack speed that you have, right? Every attack speed is an auto, and autos are based upon your ability, your attack damage. And Tiamat gives you attack damage, so all your autos hurt a bit more as well. It's just this doubling down on this concept of being a bit more of a carry with a bit more responsibility rather than this ganking utility-based Trundle. Now, Vayne and Lulu do what you expect them to do here and just overcommit past vision line. Again, why are we committing past vision line here for no reason? They're all gonna collapse. Pings coming through, yes. Doesn't really matter, it's too late. But why can they do this? Like, why can the red team afford to just collapse on this? Because we have no other pressure outlet. Like, this guy could keep pushing here because we got 3 bot, 2 here, go. Like, he should stick to this. I know he wants to base, but if you're the guy top lane here, even if you're the jungler, you know, 3 and 2, boom. Like, this Trundle, you just smack in the window, head smash the turret, take it down, right? Fall back to this, snack this baby up. Can we cut down and gank this if everyone's still available or still pushing? Maybe yes, maybe not. Otherwise, you can just detach, take this quadrant, or you can detach and gank this and hold this. Try and take more. You know, this should be a dead turret for this play. They committed too many numbers. Oh, but don't give lazy backs. Flash is forced. How unlucky. Look, it's 10-11 in game. You're probably like, hey, this is not such a bad game, actually. But when we look at it in VOD review, and look, if I'm 2-2-2 and this is my KDA, my stats in game as well, like, it's not a good game for me either. Like, I'm looking at it like I'm not playing well. You know, there's metrics you can use. And I use this in my Zara live companion guides with all the champions, right? You have the roots, you have me basically like helping you make these plays in real time, but you know, these metrics are important to me. I look at the KDA, I look at the farm, I look at the relationship between the team's status, the map, and you can kind of get a real sense of if I'm strong or not. And then now you look at it, right? The IVERN we haven't seen in a while. The guy is now 21 CS lead, he's rotated to more kills, he's 2 levels up on a Trundle. And now you're like, wait, what? How? But then you look at the Trundle, he just kept leaving a camp here, a camp there, rotating when he shouldn't, dying when he shouldn't, and he didn't rotate when he could. And it just adds up the whole time. So now we're going to coin flip. It's not really coin flip. We're going to go into this Herald here. And on the face of it, this is fine because we've got 4 people here, 1 out of position and 2 here. And of course, they've got 2 bot lane with no TP. So you've got here I was going to say 3, but that's really a 5v1, isn't it? If you could focus and burn him down, then you can turn and kill these 2. That's the idea here. You don't want to kind of split your focus. Let's see if they actually follow that. They do follow that. Now, of course, we can turn onto the Daisy, but we kind of want these 2 to just leave. So that's nice. Okay, good recognition from everybody except for the Aatrox. He didn't recognize anything. Nope. No. 1-4-1, despite that huge advantage he had in lane. And credit to the Ela for swinging it around, which is why I always say forget your laners because, you know, they're either just going to keep losing regardless, or they're going to turn it around or they're going to turn it around. Careful for the rotations here. Yeah, good. Nice restraint there. Like he was chasing, but he saw, so he backed off. That's okay. But he just compromises on econ. Now, Vayne is overcommitting here. We want to use the protection. We don't want them to go over the top here. Oof. I can't believe that Ezra gets away with that because of Arcane Shift, man. And the Yuumi. No one likes Yuumi, no matter. I mean, no one likes Lulu, but I remember when Lulu was the peak of our problems. The thing is now, right, the Aatrox has respawned, has TP, and Olaf is down on the bottom side here. So they can basically see now, look, we have numbers advantage technically. I mean, the Aatrox could look to TP into this situation, and it's a 4v4, but then the Olaf can collapse. So in theory, if you're super duper giga strong, as someone, you know, the jungler or the top laner, and you feel like, hey, we can do this 4v4 and then kill the Olaf afterwards, it might be worth doing just to ace and then into Baron, but without the Yasuo, you have to realize what your power curve is. So Ezra's going to do a little bit of poking, and the big reason for this, by the way, is that the blue team has no gold reset. So Olaf does rotate over here, which was obviously the concern. Aatrox is now floating behind. Again, this is the problem, right? How do we get onto them? We have to chase them. We have to run them down. He's activated his ultimate. He's not going to get the reset now. And the Yuumi, the Ezreal, like they keep chasing. The Yasuo's up. Now they're over-chasing. Aatrox is floating on the behind here. They haven't reset. So the blue team ends up throwing the advantage they had, which was numbers advantage threat. Yasuo goes super, super deep. Vayne goes way too deep on the right side and dies. Terrible team fighting atrocious, actually. The Yasuo dies, also terrible. The Annie is now zoning with the Tibbers. The Yumi's keeping people alive. Aatrox is just frontlining in a chokehold point. The whole blue team is just being wiped and destroyed. Oh my goodness gracious me. And Lulu's like, guys, I want to leave. Does she leave? Does she get out? Does it happen? Nope. What's your advantage? 4v3 threat. If guy comes 5v4. Yasuo dead up in 2 seconds. Burn the dragon. Peace out. Take a quadrant to defend if you need to. That's a, you know, that's logical, right? You're worried about them counter jungling while you kind of go back to base, so take the quadrant and then go back to base. Spend your gold, be happy. Now you can go look to do it again. Now we can have a straight up regular fight. We have the Annie stone, we have the Trundle tank guy. Now he gets a Tiamat. We can do something about it. But instead, the Olaf's like, hey, 5v4, and he just ults. But as you can see, the problem with the IVERN, with the stuns, with the shield, with the Yuumi, with the Ezreal, like it's very difficult to get onto them with this comp. So you don't want to be running at to them like that. And Olaf pressing his R so soon with no threat of takedown, which means no threat of reset, it's just not okay. And obviously we lose the Baron from this. That blows the game entirely wide open. And they didn't time the Yasuo's uptime either, but not that it mattered. Kind of distracted them a little bit. Oh. But yeah, that's a huge team fight throw. The numbers doesn't mean you always have to fight if you don't have the resources or the gold spent. It's better just to kind of chill and then go do your stuff. Now, they see the Yasuo here. The problem is they see them here, and this is the problem with always macro in these scenarios. The vision line is now gone. This is all fog of war death. You see, look at the minimap here. Oh, like, if this is you and you have nothing behind, like, what's protecting you here? This is just all dead zone. So you could be flanked from behind very, very easily. And if you're putting yourself in flanking position, you're gonna die. Silver and any elo. Oh, look, we're going to kill the Yasuo, but we can't because wind wall. Oh, look, Daisy shows up. Oh, look, the whole team collapses on us. Now, if you're the Trundle, you're going to say, yes, but Virkayu, what can I do in this particular case? That's funny because when you look at the search data on YouTube, you see like Virkayu as the search term. But then you also see Virkayu, like with it the wrong way around. And then there's like a V-E-N Kiraku. Like, I don't know where it came from, but it's the most random spelling I've ever seen. Probably some accident. However, this guy, in the meantime, while he sees this, is like, well, okay, cool. Now you have two options here. If you're in this sort of anemic state, I don't really know what that is. You can kind of farm a little bit, the wave, push up a little bit, you know. But if you're Chad 1v9, like you're ahead where you should be because everything else has been optimized, ooh, as soon as you see the detachment here, you're taking this, you're pushing this, you see everyone, you're hard pushing here, you cutting up, you can join the Olaf. Or if you're really afraid of this, once you've thinned this out a bit, no, I think that's the best play because you could shatter the Olaf and try and just double push this. That is a possibility, but then there lies the risk of a Baron push going here. So am I willing to trade this plus maybe the inhib turret to maybe threaten it back? And I think in this case, I would maybe be able to do that, or like it would be a desire to do that. But, you know, especially with the Herald that he has, obviously worth noting. Yeah, but otherwise you're just looking to kind of push up and cut up and then, you know, force rotations, but you can't do anything about your team doing that. So the only thing you can do, macro-wise is extinguish the pressure somewhere else by forcing them to rotate and base. And you do that by making them fearful that they're going to lose base, even though they don't really have to be, and they can just shove with the Baron. But they never will in this elo. So he doesn't have the build, the ability max, or the gold lead to do what we just said properly. He doesn't have the ability to really threaten turrets like this, cut up, threaten, activate Herald. Like, if Olaf activates Herald, as they all cut down and we kind of shadow up to him after a little bit of a deep push, then maybe we can do a lot of damage here, right? Our team gets to respawn, catch some waves, farm some camps, we can just disengage and not die. It's cool. Now we're pushing up at the mid lane here. Now we're going to be in a bit of a precarious situation if we don't be careful. So we need vision in these pockets, we need vision in these pockets. The Yasuo hits the plant down, so we know, oh no, we've been seen. There's a Yasuo. They're whole sieging with the Baron. This is just falling apart so quickly at this stage, as it always does. IVERN, you know, we failed. We snowballed the mid lane a little bit, quote unquote, because she didn't really get to use any of that gold, you know? The Vayne was the golden ticket. Help Olaf a little bit so he can do his business a bit better. Like, imagine if we gave the Olaf a bit of juice early. Super nice. Imagine if we helped bottom lane a little bit. Imagine if we did a lot of things. But our team come in the end is not exactly a good one, and Trundle is not in the best state at the moment, but you can definitely, you can climb with a lot of that 7 CSPM split push pressure that I was talking about. Like, you can shove mid lanes and cuts and take top lanes and side lanes and beat people 1v1 with your Q. A lot of cool things you can do. But against this particular comp at this particular stage, it was always going to be difficult. They're basically baiting this. They're going to pull back because there's no more wave, right? And there's a cannon, obviously. They're going to pull back, and now it forces them to overchase, thinking, okay, we need to make a play now. We have the Aatrox, and he's just going to turn flashback and boom, like that. It's just a basically, oh no, just kidding. And then you just turn flashback in. It's a really nice bait and switch, and I'm happy to see it in this elo because you can definitely win a lot of fights just by kind of saying, come get us, just kidding. And a lot of the time, when you do that and they're overchasing, you actually have a lead. It's a quick, nice turn, very nicely done by the Aatrox as well. And they can end the game. So a bit of a non-game game, if that makes sense. Typically, that's the issue in gold. You got to get your hands on the wheel, learn to drive it. Thank you very much for watching. Like, share, and comment if you did. Zara.gg for life and companion guides. Virkayu.gg for courses and coaching. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.